Hey people, it's Ashley, and this is Let's Talk Recovery Houston. So today we're doing something a little different. We will have the student becoming the teacher today. The two guests are going to be on, is going to be Sid. Sid's going to be sharing his story, but he'll be being interviewed, questioned by his sponsee, Omar. We've never done this before, so we'll just have to kind of see how it goes, but everyone's really excited about it. And so with that, I'm just going to let the guys take it over.
Hi everybody, how you doing today? My name is Omar. This is Let's Talk Recovery Houston, and our guest today is Dr. Sid Cannon. He's also my sponsor, and I know him very well. He has an incredible story of recovery, and he is one of the most, he has some of the best posts I've ever read, and he has such insight and knowledge. My favorite line that he's ever told me, it says, "There's a lot of power in being powerless. The first step is to be honest and willing and ask for help." And I still to this day remember that when he said that to me, because it is brutal truth and honesty. And he has an amazing story of recovery. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to you, Sid, and I'd like you to go ahead and start with how you a little bit about yourself and how you ended up in Houston.
Thank you, Omar. And I'm blessed and grateful for this opportunity to share my story and to be with you guys today. So thank you. My name is Sid Cannon. And I'll just start from the beginning. And I was born in India, in South India, and my family, we moved to Canada when I was 4. And basically, my mother immigrated first to Canada, and then my father and myself, we came shortly after, about a year and a half after. My mom and dad moved to Canada because they wanted a better life for our family. And my dad was already a practicing dentist in India, so he had moved over and we were living in a small apartment. And it was just kind of like humble beginnings for our family. And we didn't have much. And it was a struggle when we initially moved, and my parents were both working jobs to support our family. And we grew up, and after my dad got his license, things started to really turn around for our family, and he was able to practice and support us. And my sister was born when I was 9, and we kept moving from house to house because of just where he was working in the location. So we were moving a lot. And I just got through school. I never really got into too much trouble when I was younger, but I did feel that there was parts of me that I didn't like, but I didn't want to tell other people about it. And I just kind of hid that away from other people. But I think that a big component of what really got me through school was sports. I was always involved in sports, especially basketball. I played since I was young, and all throughout high school. And being from an Indian family, education and studies are important for us. Though my parents were not very strict about getting the best grades, they always wanted me to try my best and try to do my best in school. So, that just kind of got me through high school, and I had to make a decision to what to do next. And I know my dad always wanted me to be a dentist as well. And I'd applied for universities and colleges across Canada, and I got into some of them. And we were just trying to make a decision whether, I want to go back to India and pursue dentistry right after high school, or if I'm going to just, stay in Canada, do an undergrad, and then go from there. But basically, after discussing with my family, I decided that, I was going to go back to India and pursue my dental degree. And at this point right now, I've only drank twice. I never really drank much. Never did any of the side dishes. I never really got exposed to that. I was usually around good kids and that were, trying to do good for themselves, and was involved with sports. So I never really got into that much at all. I just remember in high school I drank once before prom and once on prom night. That was about it. So I never really had that influence. And when they talk about the first drink, I don't really think the first drink wasn't a big deal for me, to be honest. Because I just remember having like a beer at a friend's house, but I never felt different after. I never felt a release of stress. I never felt any of that. And surprisingly, I never really wanted to take another drink, which was really different than a lot of people's experiences. When I've heard many speakers talk, and they say, once I had that first drink when I was 12, I've always wanted to have another one and things. I never felt that way. It was just different for me. But things changed very quickly, and so once I made it back to India, I didn't really know what to expect, but I was excited and I was nervous. And I remember when we first started college, a couple of days before we started college, I had to move into, they call it a hostel there, but it's a dorm. And I remember like walking up some of the stairs, and I saw a few guys that were standing there, and I said, "Hey, dude, are you guys dental students here?" And then they were just looking at me from top to bottom. They're just analyzing and scanning me, and I didn't really know what I was gonna expect. And we went into the room, saw everything, and signed all the papers, and I got my stuff in. And I remember the night before the first day, I was about 11 or 12, and all of a sudden I was sleeping, and some guy came, and he started banging real hard on the door. And then, my roommate was also half asleep, and he told me, "Hey, can you go and see what's going on?" And I remember opening the door, and this guy took my shirt, and he didn't say hi, he didn't say nothing. And he just took my shirt and dragged me down to the next floor. And he opened his door, and I just saw things I'd never seen before. It was a new experience. And what they call that in North America is called hazing, and they talk about fraternities and things like that. And in India, they call that ragging. And I remember when I walked in, a couple of my other classmates that were also in the hostel were already there, and they were standing in their underwear. And then there was these three guys sitting there, and they were drinking and smoking cigarettes and doing all these things. And that's when I realized that, this was going to be my new life. And that was how it was for a good 6 months. It was like every night somebody would call me. I would see somebody get hit, and I was like kind of stuck until I told them one sweet lie. I love to drink, but I never really drank before. But I told them I got to fit in. That was another trend. Like, I need to find a way to fit in. So I told these guys I love to drink, and he said, "How come you never told us for the last month?" I said, "Because I was scared. Fear. Again, that was another thing. Fear. I was scared to tell you guys." They're like, "All right, sit down with us and drink." And that's when I started. And I took the first drink then, and I wanted to have one more. And I don't know if that was because I was in an environment that made me uncomfortable, or if I was in a place that maybe I didn't know what to expect, or I didn't know what was going to happen to me. I just wanted to get out of myself. And that's when it really started, and I started to, for some reason, once I took the first one and I took the second one, I wanted to be like that all the time. And I saw that happening over and over again, and the consequences didn't start up yet. I was a good manipulator. I was able to get out of the situation. I was doing well in school, so nobody really doubted anything of me. But, there came a point when the first year passed by, and they told me that all of this ragging and hazing would end soon, and it did. And they told me that if I listened to everything these guys said, that I would be able to do that as well. I would be able to be a part of what was going on, because snitches, or the B word. So they just said, as long as you don't snitch, even though my father knew people, I was quiet, and I just listened to what these guys said. And when the second year rolled around, and literally the first day when the next first years came in, it was game on. I was gonna take full advantage of what these guys did to me, and that's exactly what I did. We got a group of guys, and we would just tear it apart. And I saw this change of personality, because when I first was exposed to all these things, I thought that I would never do this. The first time some guy hit me, I was crying, and I went up to my room and I said, the one thing I don't want to be is like them. But what happened was over a year of time, the drinking and everything, it messes up with your head. It messes up, and you start to lose, who you really are. I didn't really know who I really was. But what I did know was I wanted to maximize the privilege that I earned. So that's exactly what I did. The second year came around, and it was just, we actually ended up, two of my classmates and myself, we ended up getting our own house. We got like a 2-bedroom home, and and it was every weekend we would call those first year guys, and they used to have like auto rickshaws, and we would pay they would make an excuse that our house, well, they do kilometers there, so it was like 4 kilometers away, and they would be like, oh sir, like we can't come, it's far, we can't walk, whatever. And I'll be like, all right, you know what, I'll just pay for your auto to come here and get 2 autos and get all the guys in and bring them over to our house. And it was just free for all. Do whatever you want and make them stand for 4 hours, dance, buy us booze, basically everything. And I took advantage of the situation. And what happened was, we were getting through second year, and I ended up going on vacation. I had a month off in May, and this is in 2011. I had a month off, and I decided to go stay in India, visit my grandparents and visit some friends. And I ended up going to my grandparents' house in May, and I was wanted to spend a week with them. Or basically, what I can say is that since I didn't want to come home because I wanted to just drink and relax all month. So if I was at my grandparents' house, there was no one to disturb me, but the only thing was, they lived in a remote town, and basically my grandfather has been there for about 40 years. So everybody in the town knew him. They knew his little scooter that he drives around. So if I needed to drink, I had to get out of the town and go somewhere else where people didn't know him. So I would basically wake up every morning, eat, have lunch, and my best friend was also off for a week. So we would tell my grandparents, hey, we're going for a movie, we're going to go eat something. And then we would go, and we would almost literally drive 10 kilometers away, about 7 miles away, so we can go to a bar outside of town just to drink and get loaded and come back. And we were doing that every day. And I remember on the 4th day, my credit card, or the debit card, it broke. So I was out of money, and my dad told me to, take some money from your grandpa until you get another card. And I was just really hesitant to ask him for money. I don't know if it was pride or what it was, but I really didn't want to ask him. And my friend came over that morning, and he said, hey, are you ready? Let's go have a drink, And he was not a big drinker, but he knew that I love to drink. And if he wanted to be with me, he would have to drink too. So, I told him that morning, I said, hey man, I don't think we can do this today because my card broke. But, we could just wait a day or two, and once I get some money, we can go again. He was from a poor family. His parents struggled, and he was in engineering college and engineering school, and his parents struggled to put him through. So I didn't want to, burden them either, for my own pleasure. But he told me that he's like, you always give money and whatnot. So today it's going to be my treat, and I'm going to take you out. And I was still hesitant, but I went with him. And my grandfather, for some reason that day, he also took his scooter. He went to see some people, and he was gone too. So there was no bike there. And he said, hey, I'm gonna go ask my dad for his bike, his motorbike. We're not talking about bicycles, but
yes,
an actual motorbike, a Yamaha. And I said, no, I don't think so, man. I don't think your dad will give you his bike. He never gives it to anybody. And he said, no, I'll use your name, and he'll definitely give it. So we went to his dad's shop. He has like a tea shop. And they have, they sell food and tea and all that other stuff over there. And he said, hey, like, we want to go to watch a movie in this other town. Can we use your bike? And he saw me there too. So right away he said yes. And this was around like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So he went, and he was so thrilled because his dad has never given him his bike ever. And I guess that really, that made a difference in our story, as you're going to see in a couple of minutes. But his dad has never given the bike to him before, so he was so excited to drive. And I don't know why his dad never gave it to him, but it's like his prized possession. He doesn't give it to nobody. But that day he gave it to him, and we hopped on, and it was just like a jolly day. And we didn't have much money, but we had enough for us. And I remember we went to the shop. We call it, like, they're called wine shops over there. So basically, like, these really local bars here, and it's like sand on the ground and like plastic tables, and it's pretty ghetto. But the things, you know how it goes,
Yes.
And it was very ghetto. But we went in and we had just enough for, they call it a half. So basically, how liquor is measured, I think people will be interested to hear this. So liquor is measured like, they call it a quarter, a half, and a full. So basically, a full is like what they call a handle here.
Oh,
they call
man.
a handle, and a half is like 375 ml. Or they call it a Mickey, I guess here. I don't know, in Canada they call it a Mickey. But basically, we had enough for that, and then we bought whatever snacks and all that stuff. And we sat down and we started drinking, and obviously, once the booze kicks in, we try to find the next right thing to do, which is find more liquor.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But we were totally out of cash. We had to find the next right thing to do, and right when we were still trying to figure out, and I was like, now at this point, I'm like, let's drive back. I'm gonna ask my grandfather for money now, and he will give it. It comes to that point where what the principles that we had and the principles I live by, after a couple of drinks, it doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah.
We try to find another way. And I said, hey, listen, why don't we drive back there, and then I'll ask my grandpa for money. He'll give us money. We'll come right back. He said, man, you're insane. It's 10 kilometers there, 10 kilometers back. You don't care. You stop caring, right? You stop caring about things. And exactly when we were thinking that, this guy, he comes, and we were on the last drink, and this guy across from us, it seems like a wealthy businessman, and he came in and he sat right across our table, and he was just like, he just ordered a beer, and he gave them 1,000 rupees, which is basically, it's like you order a beer here and you give a guy $100 bill for, like, and the beer is only $1, because he didn't have any change. And when we see that, then we get interested. So he literally, there was no other tables available, so he sat right across from us at our table. And we were like, wow, like, he just called the guy. It seemed like he would come there often. He almost knew everybody there. And he just ordered a beer and some chicken, and he was just waiting there, and we kind of started having a good conversation. And this was about 10 minutes in, and I said, hey, we got to leave, we're done. And he's like, what do you mean you're done? We just came. I said, no, we don't have any, that you put on that face. And he said,
Yes.
No, we don't have any money. And he's like, oh, don't worry. And then he calls the guy back, and he said, whatever they had, just give them whatever they had again. And obviously, that made us extremely happy. And we didn't know what was going to happen after, but, that just made us happy. And we stayed there. And, we finished our drinks, and he was a great guy. I mean, he just did it out of kindness. He just felt bad. He's like, you guys are young kids in college, and you want to have fun. And he had no bad intentions. And, we finished up the drinks, and we left. And we came outside, and we just, we have this protocol that we follow before going home, like, put in all this gum thing.
Oh, yes.
The chewing gums and all that stuff, washing our face, looking all fresh. And so we did the routine outside, and my friend looked pretty stable. To be honest, he looked pretty stable from my eyes. I don't know what other people around me would have saw, but from my eyes, it looked extremely stable. And I know that, his dad never gives him the bike much. So I wanted him to have the opportunity to drive that bike today. Because I have my own motorbike in the city, and I drove it all the time. And it's faster than this one. It's newer. So I didn't have any intention to drive, other than the fact if I saw him rolling on the floor, I probably would have offered, which is both a bad idea. We both shouldn't have been driving regardless. But no helmet, nothing. But I didn't have a second doubt of why he shouldn't have to drive at that time. And he took his bike, and we were driving back towards the town, and we were going on like a bridge. And what ended up happening was he started to rev it up, and he was just enjoying it because, he doesn't know if he's ever going to drive it again. So he just started going, 50, 60, 70. And it came to a point where it was already almost too late for me to tell him to slow down because there was so much wind in our faces. I could barely speak to him while he was driving, and it came to a point where the handlebar started to shake, and I was like just about to like tap him. I was like, man, you really gotta slow down, man. And then he just like let go because he couldn't control the handlebar, and basically, I don't know exactly what happened because I went into this like shock, they call it like hypovolemic shock, like right away when you fall down. But basically, he let go of the handlebar and he flew in front. He basically guarded me, and I flew on top of him, and he passed away on the spot. And and I was lying there unconsciously, and I believe that my cousin told me this. There was a lot of people that were walking on that bridge at that time because it was evening time. I think around 5:30, and people go for walks and whatnot on the bridge, and so a lot of people started to run to once they heard that sound.
Yeah.
And at the time, I had an iPhone 3G, so you can imagine like how far ago
Right.
it was. 2011. I had an iPhone 3G, so a smart person was able to go in and they knew how to navigate an iPhone, which is a big deal there, especially in a small town. They needed to navigate it. They went through my contacts. They found the last contact that was contacted by me, and they called that girl that I was talking to, and they were basically saying, "Oh, is this your friend? He's in an accident. Tell me who to contact." And then they called my grandparents. Everybody's worried and crying and yelling, and I'm just lying there on that bridge, and all this blood is going out. And at this point, I couldn't open my eyes. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know he died. Nothing. And they basically got an ambulance, and they basically got me over to the local general hospital, the government hospital. The thing with these towns is they don't have a lot of one technology and two accessibility to certain care. Like they can do like palliative care, and then they can't really do much after. So when they transferred me to this hospital, the doctors were overwhelmed over there. They basically were like, wow, like he has so many injuries, we don't even know where to start. We can't get a CT scan, we can't get an MRI here. All we can do is like bandage him up, give him some saline, and ship him over to like a trauma center. The problem with that was the trauma center was 120 kilometers away, and they're like, this kid won't even last 2 hours, like because of how much blood he's losing. No matter how much we're bandaging it, it's just going through the bandage and just seeping out. But luckily, they had a driver that was really talented, and they were able to transport me to the hospital, and they admitted me, and that's when this next phase of my life started, where I was paralyzed for about 6 months, from shoulder all the way down on my right hand, and there was so much uncertainty, and I just brought all this uncertainty out. But I just remember, like, when I was in the hospital going through treatment, like, I still wanted to drink. I still wanted to escape, and it was just unfortunate, man. And I was just waiting to the time when I'd be able to come out of the hospital, and I can enjoy my life again. And the thing is, I never knew my friend died because they hid it from me. Everybody hid it, and they did a great job trying to hide it because they said that he's so damaged and he's in the hospital. I don't know how he's gonna do if he finds out that the best friend died. So let's just tell him that he's okay. And so that's what they did. So I had this like huge resentment against my friend because I'm like, look at me, self-pity, look at me. I'm all damaged up, and I don't even get one call from him, or he doesn't come visit me, not knowing that he died. And how I found out later was like when I went back to college, because I was still a student, and there was just all this uncertainty about what's going to happen. I was halfway through a second year. Basically, I don't have a hand to work with, and that's not really beneficial when you're a dentist trying to work on patients and graduate from school. But when I went to see the dean kind of blurted out to my mom when I was there, like, "Oh, how is the other kid's family doing and whatnot?" Kind of in a way where you ask about somebody after they died, like, "Oh, how's the family doing? Are they okay?" and whatnot. And that's when I started getting indication like, hey, something may have happened. And I came outside and I asked my friend, I said, hey, like, what actually did happen? Like, what happened to him? And that's when my friend took me aside and he sat me down, and then he explained to me what actually happened. So he had died on the spot, and his internal organs all splat out, because of the impact.
Yeah.
And his brain also, like, you know, just his skull cracked in half. So basically he died like instantaneously. And then I was just in a complete shock. I was just like numb. And then all that resentment like I had against him, like I just took it upon me. Like I had his resentment against myself. Oh, it's because of me. You know, if I wasn't selfish like this, or if I didn't force him to do these things, it wouldn't have happened.
Oh yes, 100% survivor's guilt.
Right. And you know, that's when I think that things really, you know, took a turn for the worse. When, you know, I would purposely go and drink and do things and say, oh, it's all my fault. So I deserve to do this to, you know, to get out of myself. Once I drink, then I don't blame myself as much. So I think that the next couple of years, I literally would just study, work, try to figure out how to get through college and just get my degree and leave. And the other hand was drink. But the thing is that a lot of people, other than a few close friends, they didn't really know how bad it was for me. Because I would show, you know, this face when I would get up in the morning and come to college. I would show the face of a good student, and I would listen to what people said, and I would do everything that they said when I was in college. But then once 4:30 hit up and I was out, I was a totally different person, you know. And I didn't want to show that side to a lot of people. One, because I was embarrassed, and two, because it was none of their business. You know, and that was my attitude. And when people would ask, I'd say, well, I can do whatever I want after I'm done. You know, what's your problem? You know, it was just a bad attitude. But, you know, I got through and I finished and I made my way back, you know, to Canada. And then I was deciding, I said, hey, so I need to figure out a way to get into school here. So I'd written my boards and I got in and I went to Pitt, University of Pittsburgh. I was very lucky to get admitted to their program to complete my dental degree here. And, you know, just rewinding a little bit before that, there was I'd been put back 6 months because of my injuries. And everybody kept asking me, like, hey, like, you have so much injuries in your right hand and your arm, like, how are you going to practice? How are you going to do this and that? And even the doctors told me, they're like, well, you have a very slim chance of being able to practice because of your injuries. And basically, they told me, like, change your profession, you know, because this is not going to work out for you. No matter how much, they did a great job. I mean, amazing. And they put me back together, but there's only so much they could do because it was limited to the amount of injuries that I had. But one of my friends gave me this crazy idea. He's like, oh, well, your left hand is good. Like, why don't you just try with your left hand? So that's when I had this phase for about a month where all I was doing was just like writing with my left hand. And basically, I would study and I would write everything with my left hand. And I basically learned how to become ambidextrous. And that's when I went back to clinics and I told the professors, and being a smart aleck, I tell them, I was like, oh, watch me. You know, I'm going to do everything with my left hand. They said, you're crazy. But, I mean, till this day, ever since then, I've been left-handed and I've been practicing with my left hand. So just, you know, how does that tie to alcoholism? Well, self will run right no matter what. You know, I'm not going to give up on my cause, and I'm not going to listen to anybody no matter what. You know, I'm going to go to any length to get what I want.
Yes.
And that's exactly what I did. But yeah, basically after I came here, about a year later, after I applied and I interviewed and I got into Pitt, I started in Pittsburgh and I wanted to start off fresh because I was at a new school and people didn't know who I was or what I was and what I was before. And I wanted to be a new person until about a weekend. And I think that my mentality was still stuck in how it was in India and how things were in college. And I kind of wanted to manipulate that and I wanted to relive that again. And I got into the same old behaviors and I realized you can't do that stuff here if I wanted to be successful. And I did, but I think just the amount of stress that was there with college and it was just piling up and piling up and piling up. And I was reverting back to old habits again. And I thought, I'm never going to drink like that again, and I don't need to, and I'm beyond that. But literally, after a week in, I was right back to where I was. And even in the book it tells us, you know, we could have these droughts where we think we're not, And then once you put that in your system again, it's an allergy, right? Once I didn't know these things before. Once you put it into your system, it picks off exactly where you left off.
Absolutely.
And even though maybe there was a couple of months here and there where it wouldn't, the day that I would, it would just set off right away like a fire. And basically, I had a 2-year program over there, and it came all the way to 2017, December 31st, when I was just fed up. It was I didn't know where I wanted to go. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but what I did know was I wanted to figure out a way to control my drinking, because it was taking over my life, and I wanted to I wanted to control and enjoy the pleasures, but at the same time I wanted to keep doing what I was doing, but I wanted to just control it. And so on 31st, it was a New Year's party, and just things were horrible. I was not good around people, and I just made a big mess, and I broke a bathroom sink and the toilet, and I just flooded everything, and it was just a whole mess, and everything was a blur that day. And it was weird because I just had like 3 shots, and I started to black out for some reason, which I never had before. And I just remember I got up on January 1st, 2018, which is a sobriety date, and I remember like getting on my knees, and I was not like praying to God. I do believe in God, and I am part of religion, but the God that I had was like, I would pray, and then I wouldn't get sober, or I wouldn't stop drinking, or I wouldn't be able to control my drinking. But I remember that day when I just got down and prayed. I said, I don't know what you want me to do, but what I do know is that I need some help. I don't know what to do. And I wanted to stay sober till my birthday, which is in April. And that was the goal. So I put a goal, and I said, all right, no matter what, I'm not going to drink till April. And surprisingly, I barely lasted 10 days till I started going crazy. And I said, I couldn't believe it. Like, I didn't understand what was going on with me. Why are all of my other friends able to control and enjoy it, whereas I'm going insane about this? Like, you just keep thinking about it over and over again, and it comes to a point where it was just taking over my life. Like, I told myself, I said, I'm gonna last until April, which is 4 months, but why at like the 10th or 11th day I'm going insane? Like, what's really wrong with me? I didn't really know what was wrong. And I remember like I was sitting in the library at Pitt, and I was trying to study for a test, and I just remember like I had music on, and I just like started crying in the middle of the library because I really didn't know what was wrong with me. And I remember watching a movie called Flight with Denzel Washington.
Great movie.
And I remember in that movie he was going to these kind of meetings, and he would go and sit like at the back, and people would be talking about themselves and about I didn't know what was alcoholism properly, but I remember because when I watched the movie I was drunk, but I remember that he would like do some of the things that I have done before. Like, I would take a bottle like that I had, like pour it out at night and say, oh, I'm not going to touch it, I'm not going to drink it, I'm good. I would do these kind of things, clean up my house, rearrange it, throw out all the booze. Like, I've done all those things. And for some reason, I was like, a lot of his behaviors I was doing those things. So, and he was going to meetings and I guess getting better. And I thought, okay, what are these meetings, or what's really going on? And so I remember going on the iPad, and then I searched like places to go to stop drinking. And then I remember like the first thing that popped up was like AA, Pittsburgh and whatnot. Like, oh, if you have a drinking problem, like, come, we have a solution and all this crazy stuff. And I remember like clicking on that link, and then I asked for put in your zip code and we'll show you the closest meeting to you and whatnot. So I put in the zip code, and like this whole list, like 300 meetings came out. I said, dang, like so many people may have some problem that I may have. I can't believe it. Like, there's this many people that have a problem with drinking. Because I always thought like, oh, people in America, like North America, they don't have problems with drinking and stuff. It's people in India that have a problem because, you know, that's what I saw. When I was drinking at some of these bars, I would see these farmers like come in at 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. It was like clockwork, you know. But the thing that my friend told me later was like, you would see them come in 4 times a day, but that means that you were there all day. So didn't you see that was a problem? Because I never saw that what I was doing was a problem. Because I would go in at like 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning, and I'd be there till 9, and I'd see this guy come in 4 times. But I never, you know, I thought he was having a problem because he would have to inject this every 4 hours, whereas I was sitting there all day watching him come in and out. But basically, you know, I really didn't. That's how naive I was. So naive. I didn't even realize these things even existed till I'm lucky I watched that movie. But basically, yeah. So I put in the search, and I saw, oh shoot, there's all these meetings, and then so I searched. And at that time, I was a student, didn't have a car. Obviously, my parents are supporting me financially and all that. I was taking the bus. They give us like a pit pass, so you can jump on any bus and whatnot. So I saw a meeting in an area called Shadyside, which I used to actually live in initially when I first moved to Pittsburgh. And I saw there was a meeting at 8. So what I did was, it was around 6, so I said, okay, I'm going to get on this bus. I actually called one of my best friends in Toronto, and I said, hey, I think I have a problem with drinking and whatnot. He said, are you sure? Like, you know, whenever you're here, like, with us drinking, like, I know that you drink a lot more than everybody else, but, like, you never really caused any problems. And then that's when I was, like, first, like, honest to him. I said, hey, like, no, like, you know, these are the things that I've done here. I've gotten in trouble, and you know, I'm getting in trouble. And then he was pretty shocked. But when I suggested, like, I saw this thing about AA, and he said, oh, AA, like, even he knew about it. And he was just like, oh yeah, it's great. Like, you know, one of my coworkers, like, he went, and like, it's been a couple of months, and I see this huge change in him, I think, or maybe it's going to help you and whatnot. And he told me that, you know, I remember he sent a text. He said, man, it's going to, like, I'm really proud of you. It's going to change your life and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And I said, all right, we'll see. And so I went over there. It was like a snowstorm that day in Pittsburgh. And I went over to, it was like in this really creepy church basement. And that's what they said it was in the basement. And I remember waiting outside, like, the place. And then this lady was, like, smoking across the street. And I was like, hey, is there, like, some, like, AA meeting down here? I said, oh, darling, like, they canceled the meeting today because of the snowstorm and whatnot. And I literally thought at that time, I said, hey, like, you know, maybe even God doesn't want me to get sober. Maybe I got one more thing for me tonight. So, and then I decided I'm going to go drink. And I remember, like, going, and I said, all right, I'm going to drink tonight. I'm going to have the night. And then tomorrow I'm going to go to AA. And I remember getting on the bus, and then one of my friends in Pittsburgh, he called me exactly when I was about to get on the bus, and he said, hey, like, do you want to go out for some dinner? And I don't know why, I just said, yes, I will. And we went out for dinner. A lot of the restaurants there are BYOB, so a lot of people, like, bring their own stuff, and I have to. I was just really different than other people. Like, I would bring, like, a whole 2-liter bottle of Coke and, like, I would bring a full whiskey. You know, I'd bring a whole, like, big bottle of whiskey there. And I would sit there, and everybody, like, I don't know if people were looking at me or not, but I would literally go to Walgreens and get a whole 2-liter bottle of Coke and finish it all at the restaurant. It was weird. But, you know, but he just bought wine that day, and I was not into wine. I didn't really like it. I was more like hard liquor. But basically, I remember that day he was just like, hey, like, do you want to have some? I said, no. And he started laughing. He said, no, you never say no. Not today. You know, I remember that was the first time I said, not today. Maybe tomorrow, but not today. And I think that was when something started to change. And the next day, I decided, yeah, I'm going to find a meeting regardless today. And I remember there was a meeting down in Southside. And Southside was known in Pittsburgh for all the bars and the craziness, everything. There was like a strip on Carson Street, and there would be like 50 bars. And I would go. I was a regular customer in that area, so I was very aware. But I didn't know that they had AA meetings there too. And then I kind of correlated. I said, okay, if this isn't bars, there gotta be some places to help, you know, some people that are suffering. But it was not what I was expecting, because I walked in. And I didn't know there was so many different formats. You know, there's speaker meetings and there's discussion meetings and all that. So this was a speaker meeting and there was 300 people there, and I was terrified. And I was in my backpack and like a school kid, and I walked in and there was this girl that went up there, and this has really made me doubt myself because she went up there and she said her story, and I heard her whole story, and she was like around maybe I think 23, 25, and she was sober for about 2.5 years at the time when she gave the thing, but she was a woman that was homeless, addicted to heroin, and you know, she was kicked in and out of facilities and all this stuff. Like, she went to jail and stuff. I walked outside. I said, "What's going on?" Like, I'm not even close to that.
Oh yeah.
I'm
Everyone says
definitely
that.
not. I'm definitely not alcoholic. I'm not. This is not. This is not what I expected. You know, I came in here because I wanted these people to kind of tell me like, okay, this is how you need to control everything, so everything is going to be okay. But I was not anything that she was, so I'm definitely not. This is not for me. And I remember I left that day, and I said, but again, I said that thing like I saw a bar that I usually go to that was literally almost right across the street from the meeting, but I don't know. I didn't want to drink that day. I said, okay, maybe I'll just hold off just one more day. I'll give this deal one more chance. And I remember the next day was Martin Luther King Day, and I woke up really early in the morning and I felt like I wanted to drink, but I didn't know why. And then I did the next right thing finally, and I went to that list again and I saw other meetings, and there was a meeting called Sunrisers in the morning at 7 a.m. at the Enola Club, and I said, no matter, well, I don't have anything to do, I'm up at 5 o'clock, I want to drink and I don't know where to go, so why don't I just try this? So then I ended up going to the club in the morning, and there was this guy outside and he was smoking, and I went up to him and I said, hey, is this where the AA meeting is? And he said, yes, this is where it is. And he's like already new here, and he was talking to me for about 10 minutes. He was talking, and I just remember like he was kind of looking straight and he was not looking anywhere, and he was kind of just gazing out, and I didn't understand why. And he was telling me what AA is and what it has to offer and all those things. And he's like, oh, I've been here for 13 years and it's the greatest thing that has ever happened to me. He told me all these things. And I later found out like he was blind. And so it was just like, I said, wow, like, okay, if this guy is blind and he's doing this deal and it's working for him and he's positive and he has so many good things to say, maybe this would work for me too. And I remember going to the meeting, and finally, there was a diverse group of people in the morning, and I heard so many things that I could relate to. There was so many. It was more like, even though they looked different than I did, they felt the same way that I have felt, and they've got relief from it now, and that's what attracted me most to it. And that's when things kind of started rolling, and I said, okay, maybe I'll give this one more chance. And day after day, I would go, and did I feel like drinking sometimes? Yes, but I would still go, and I sat there in the chair. And I listened to other people, and I shared. And for the first time, I'd shared about my injury and my friend dying and how I felt bad about it. And I remember people came up and they spoke to me about it. And one of the people was ended up being my first sponsor, who was Gene Ritter. And Gene been sober for many, many years at the time when he spoke to me. And I just remember one of the first conversations that I ever had with Gene was, he kept asking me, why I came to AA. And he said, why'd you come here now? And I told him, I said, well, because I want to stop drinking. And then he said, no, that's not the reason why. How come you came to AA? And I said, well, Gene, I came here because I want to stop drinking. And at this time, like, this is the second time I'm meeting this guy. He doesn't know anything about me. He really doesn't. I said, what does this guy know about me? What does he really know? But, he had me figured out from the beginning.
Yes.
He had me figured out from the beginning, and he said, you want to come here, you came here because you want to stop hurting, and you want to start hurting yourself, and you want to stop hurting everybody around you. And that was the truth. The truth was, I just want to stop hurting. And I just remember, I had these tears running down my eyes that day, because I knew that this man knew something about me that I didn't know, and I was so interested to find out what it was that he knew about me. And when he talked to me, he never told me about. He never talked about me other than that one time. He always referred to things that about himself, and he talked about his own story, and how he got sober in 1972, and things were a lot different when he got sober than it was now. But he always says, a drink is a drink, and an alcoholic is an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And and if he said, if you ever have a doubt, try some controlled drinking. And he was right out of the book, and he was strict. He would tell me to call him every morning, and I was hesitant initially, but I would do the things he said because I wanted this. And one of the first things we would do was read 62. And when I got a book, I've taken a lot of classes, and we get a textbook. And textbook, we always start from the beginning,
Yes.
go to the end. And I was so surprised because the first time I called Gene, he just told me to jump like halfway through the book, and he said go to 62, and I didn't understand why. And we would read this every morning, and it would irritate the crap out of me because he would make me read the same thing. I said, aren't we gonna do any other, aren't we gonna read anything else? And he said, no, you didn't get it yet. You didn't get it yet. And I said, what is there to get? I'm reading words, and I understand what it's saying. He's like, no, you didn't understand, because if you understood, you would call me and tell me what I want to hear. And it came to a point where we were doing that for a month, and finally it kind of hit me. It kind of hit me on that I was driven by fear all this time, and the root cause of everything was my selfishness.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I didn't understand before. And that's that paragraph we'd read over and over and over again. But I'm just thankful for what he taught me, and though he did the steps like a lot of years ago, I mean, he worked the steps with a lot of people over the years, so he kind of he tailored how he worked the steps according to how my relationship was with him, which was great. And he was getting old, but he was still making it to meetings every day, and he was putting sobriety first, and that's what he taught me. He said, no matter what you do throughout the day,
Absolutely.
go to a meeting, call somebody that you know, and show somebody that you care. And that's basically what he taught me. I was only in Pittsburgh for about 5 months, and because I graduated and I moved to Columbus to do a fellowship training in pediatric dentistry. But as soon as I moved to Columbus, he had taught me enough to go to meetings there, get plugged in, and find another sponsor there. I was hesitant to get another sponsor in Columbus because, I had a great relationship with Gene, and I didn't feel that he was so far away. But he taught me that no matter where you go, you need to have somebody where you're meeting at least once
Yes.
a week, where you're discussing things, or where you're discussing about the steps, or you're discussing about what's really going on with you. Because, you could sound really good on the phone, but it's different when you're looking person eye to eye.
Mm-hmm.
You can see a lot more. So, that was some of the things that he showed me and he taught me. And, he's not doing so well right now because he had a hip surgery, and his health has gone down tremendously over the last 6 months. But he's slowly recovering back up. He had a stroke, so I try to stay in touch with him, and we still read, and he still makes me read 62. And it's just something that I've done in my recovery, and I've made it a staple. And no matter who I work with, I always make sure to remember how it was when I first came in. And he would tell me, he said, do you remember how it used to be?
Yes.
Because it was bad, because I was always confused, and I was very indecisive. I didn't know how to make any decisions. And he's taught me a lot. He's taught me how to live, and he's taught me that I don't have to drink, and I have a choice.
Yes.
I have a choice today. I don't have to. And that's one of the things that I felt that I didn't have before. I thought I have to do this, I have to control it, but I didn't realize that I had a choice. And today, I live by the principle that I don't have to worry about what's going to happen tomorrow. I just live in today
Yes.
and figure out what I need to get done today. And drinking isn't a problem. So that's really all I got.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Sid. I do appreciate it. And I do have a great story about Gene, your sponsor. I remember I spoke to him once on the phone, and he said that he just leaves his car keys in his car because if someone else needs it, they can take it. And that was a true example of surrendering and letting God's will, let God control what I cannot control. And I remember that about him. And he's a very Zen, Buddhist-like calm about him.
Right.
And he's excellent. And
he's not driving now, though.
Yeah, I know. Well, he said, I just leave the keys in the car. If someone else takes it, they need it more than me. So
what I used to do is I would get so scared. So I would take the key, I'll lock it, and I'll keep it with me while we're at meetings. And I'll give it to him at the end of it. He would, because I was like, man, how do you do that? Like, you can't just leave your stuff. You can't just leave it open and go. And he would. So, I mean, that was one of the things. And even like with service work, there was one thing that it was at a meeting. There was this huge like speaker meeting, and there would be a lot of people that would smoke cigarettes and whatnot. And he hadn't been smoking in like 40 years. But one of the things that really touched me and he taught me was like after the meeting, I would be waiting for him because he would be my ride home, and all these people were leaving. And the most irritating thing about him sometimes was that he would be there so damn long. Like I'm like I have other things to do and whatnot, but I gotta wait for this man because he has to talk to every single person before he leaves, and we'd be the last people to leave. And he took me and he went to the back, and they actually have like a post there for people to throw their buds in. Some people forget, or some people don't care; they just drop it on the floor.
Oh yeah.
And he would go and he would make me go pick up all that stuff.
It's service
and
work.
throw it in.
Absolutely, service
And I
work.
said, Gene, why are you making me do all these things? And he said, well, because if the church people come around and they see these things, they may cancel the meeting, and I need this meeting. So, and this is like at 46 years, and he said, this is really important to me. And you need to understand, just because other people don't do the right thing doesn't mean that we shouldn't be helping out. We shouldn't be doing this. So he said, I need this meeting, and I don't want this meeting to close. So you're going to do this. And I said, I understand. And, that was one of the things that he taught me. So,
well, I want to ask some recovery questions here. So when you first decided to get sober and stop drinking, and you passed on that first drink that night, do you think that was the nexus point and snowballing effect of you fully getting recovered because you passed on wine, and then you see first of all, we all know that the three staples of AA are nicotine, caffeine, and sugar. So you see the smoker. That's a constant reoccurring part in your story, knowing there's a meeting nearby because someone's smoking outside. Do you think was that the first point you made a conscious decision to pass on alcohol?
I believe that was. Yeah, because if somebody ever offered it for me, I don't think I've ever said no until that point. And then I consciously remember, like, oh shit, I already said no, I can't go back and take it.
Yes.
Right. So yeah, I believe that was the first time.
Is that the beginning of the first steps in the right direction? Because that's what you got to do: pass on it, and then move forward. And so, when did you first have that epiphany that this is working, this program is working, and I'm on my way?
So I think about about a month or a month and a half in, I remember I was talking to Gene on the phone, and basically he was just like, I was just getting really frustrated with everything that was going on, and he said, did you go to a meeting today? I said, no, I didn't go yet. And he said, all right, go to a meeting and then call me. So I went to the meeting. I felt a little bit better, and I said, hey, I don't know what it is, but I feel like seeing you. And he said, okay, come to my house. And then he tells me where he lives. And I go over there, and then I just realized that, I used to walk by this man's house every single day, like when I was going to bars down there, and I didn't even realize this guy was living there. And I went inside his house, and I remember just lying down on this couch, and we were talking about what was really going on with me, and we started reading the book. And then I think the point where I started to see when this really was working was when I started to see a connection of how my behavior was before, how my behavior was now, and how my thinking was now. It was just a total difference of how it used to be. And that's when, and I felt, for some reason, when I was lying down on that couch, I felt like, I had a dream about this sometime. It just felt very comfortable to me. And that's when I realized that I was in a safe place. I was in a place where I could trust somebody, and I can speak honestly to somebody without them judging me. Okay. And I think that was one of the things that was kind of scary about AA, like how nice certain people were, I almost started to think like, what do they want from me? What do they want from me?
Oh yeah, that we all have that thought in our recovery.
Right.
What do these people want from me? What are they trying to get out of me?
Right.
It's a constant. And also, now your sheer tenacity in being ambidextrous, you applied that so well because I played basketball with you. You were really good at that, and he shoots left-handed. So it's now. Do you think that was God's will doing that, making you persevere to pursue your career because you learned how to adapt and be ambidextrous, or was that just sheer resistance?
I just feel that. So, if I want to, I'll go back a little bit. Like I was given an opportunity to leave dentistry and to go to medical school. I was given an option by the doctors. They suggested that hey because they had connections with people in the medical field over there, they suggested me to basically drop where I was and continue and pick up at a medical school that was close by to the hospital I was getting treated. And they gave me an option. They said they would talk and they would get me in, and it wouldn't be any cost to me for whatever was done before. And I basically kindly declined their offer. And they were kind of puzzled because they were like, we're giving you a great opportunity, why don't you take it? There's some part of me still told me that, this is what I was meant to do, and this is how I was meant to do it. With the left-handed thing, I honestly, is it God's will? It must be. Because though I put in some work, if it wasn't for the help of God as well, it wouldn't have worked out. I knew a lot of people can work with a lot of people can learn how to become ambidextrous, but when you're looking at almost just 2 millimeter precision, it's hard. Because I remember the first time when I started drilling, I would start this is not in an actual person's mouth, but on a little plastic thing. I would start on one side and it would just drag all the way down, and I said, shit, if I did this in somebody's mouth, it's gonna be a big problem. So it would literally start over here, and I would start to drill, and my hand was I was just thinking, if it was an actual person, I would drill right through all their teeth. So, yeah, definitely. I mean, there was a hand of God in that for sure. It was. I can't take all the credit for it, even though I used to boast about that before, and I used to take all the credit. I said, oh, because I put in this work and I did this, but it has to be something greater than myself.
That's truly amazing, because you are definitely ambidextrous and he has fine motor skills and you developed them, and you play basketball really well. I'll be honest, when I first saw, I was like, oh, I'm going to beat him. His arm's messed up. I got this. I was 100% wrong. He destroyed me. And so the final question I have, now that you're recovered, what would you recommend to the newcomer? What obstacles did you face personally, like the fear, the desire, the poor me, the self-pity? What would you recommend to the newcomer to keep pursuing this?
So, I mean, the first thing I would say is pretty generic, go to a meeting.
Yes.
Right. Because, I mean, think about somebody like me that had no clue about what this really was. You have to give it a chance. And basically, the way I look at it is that you have to be pretty hopeless to get here.
Yes.
If you're kind of just seeing oh, let me just go and test it out, I don't think it's going to really work out. You got to get to a point where they talk about rock bottom.
Yes.
I don't know if it's rock bottom for every single person. It doesn't have to be, but you got to be pretty desperate to really want to do this and really pursue it. So my suggestion would be, I mean, the steps, yeah, that's one thing. I mean, that's something that you could discuss after you get there, but you got to really figure out what this really thing's about. And it's a spiritual program, right? It's not a religious program. So that's another thing, because I feel like some people think that these kind of programs are religious based, and they're not, because there's other people even me and you are from different religions, but we use the concept of a higher power, and it works. You can say God, you can say higher power. I don't believe in the doorknob and things like that, but I really feel that you don't really need to know God or believe in a God to come into AA, because you can develop that as you're in. Because even in step 2, it says, we came to believe. You didn't have to believe before.
Yes.
We came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Basically, it's saying that you can come to that conclusion. You don't have to have the conclusion before you walk into this room. So, I mean, one of the suggestions, get a sponsor, right? Go to some meetings, and just try to be as honest as possible. I think that honesty gets you pretty far in this program if you can be honest to a certain degree, at least in the beginning. And you got to find somebody that you can trust and be comfortable with.
Yes.
And that's something that if a sponsor doesn't work, it doesn't work. And that's something I didn't talk about. But like even after I got a sponsor here, sometimes it doesn't work out, and that's okay too. And most of the time, they're very understanding as well. So I feel that sponsor meetings and working steps, coming to some kind of idea of a power greater than yourself that can get you to where you weren't before. And that's what it is.
All right. Well, and also I would just add, look for the similarities, not the differences. And
Yes.
look for what you can bond over. Similarities bond people. Differences divide. So look after what you see. Oh, that's similar to my story. I'm not nothing like these people, because everyone's different.
Right.
Thank you.
And
I appreciate you coming in too.
That's what happened in the very first meeting I went to, because I was looking at all the differences, and basically I didn't see any kind of similarities that I had. So.
Yes, and that's exactly what it does. So we look for the commonalities in our stories.
Right.
Oh, I'm drinking too much. This consequences are happening. This is happening. Not there are other life aspects of it, which I agree 100%. Well, thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate it, and I love your story. I remember when you first told it to me. It's amazing. You had an accident, you persevered, you overcame, and when I first met you that day at Bel Air Club, I was like, I heard you share, and I knew instantly I wanted you to be my sponsor. And I chased this guy out the door and asked him to be my sponsor, and it's worth it. So find someone you trust, someone. Look for the similarities, not the differences. And if you're new to this, just keep working. As they say, keep coming back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any shout outs you want to give out?
Shout out to Omar.
Oh, okay.
And shout out to you guys for having me here.
Hey people, so that was fun. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. It was interesting, right? Being on the other side of the camera today. But it was good. The guys did a really great job. So make sure you check us out on Facebook and Spotify. This will also be on Apple iTunes as well as Google Podcasts if you're an Android user. So make sure you check all that out. Like us, share us, tell your friends. And I just wanted to bring up something that kind of hit me hard, I guess, from the other side. Sid talked about how he had no idea what Alcoholics Anonymous was. And so if by some chance you have accidentally stumbled onto this podcast and you're maybe struggling with alcoholism or addiction, or you have absolutely no clue what all of us are talking about when we mention Alcoholics Anonymous, send us a message or drop something in the comments. And we can get you connected with someone that will be able to help you and answer all of your questions. Because it's just crazy. Like, I grew up around the program, so I've always kind of known what it is. And so it's very interesting to me when I meet someone that absolutely has no idea what it is, but look how much it helped him. And that's the great thing about these programs, is it doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. You can definitely get some help if you reach out and you ask for it. So if you're one of those people, please get in contact with us and we will get you connected to the right people to help you. And if you are a sponsor and would like to experiment and do the same thing that we did today, please also reach out, because this could be something fun that we actually start doing. And with that, you guys have a great rest of your week. Bye.